I know who you are. I know what you think you're doing.
You don't want to get hurt. Keep your mouth shut and don't move a fucking muscle.
The chimps are infected. They're highly contagious. They've been given an inhibitor.
Infected with what?
In order to cure, you must first understand.
Infected with what?
Rage.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week we are doing a movie that I have been begging for us, if not out loud, inside my head to do
No, you've
since
been doing
we
it out loud.
started. Okay, cool. I
Yeah,
couldn't
for a while.
remember.
She's been doing it out loud.
But this is a movie that I love, and it is a movie that is beloved, and it is a movie that is almost impossible to watch. So sorry about that, spookies, but it is the, I guess, hard to find, very, very in demand, 28 Days Later from 2002. And here's a little IMDb logline right now, just so I don't forget to do it. This is what it's about. 4 weeks after a mysterious, incurable virus spreads through the UK, a handful of survivors try to find sanctuary. And I feel like right now, Thanksgiving just happened. I am very thankful that we did Malignant in between The Mist and this movie, because otherwise we would have had Bleak November. It might have been too much for the spookies' little souls, and it might have hurt them. And so thank God we had something goofy in between.
And this movie is dark, certainly, but
Yes.
you know, there's hope there.
There
places,
is.
And
There's some alternative endings that would have
Malignant's also pretty
rivaled.
bleak. if you stop and think about it, when you're not laughing at it being so goofy, it is.
That's
pretty
true.
bleak.
It's true.
It's still
I
bleak
feel-
November.
It's
I'm
still-
gonna
you're
think
right.
about
It's Bleak November.
Novembleak.
Novembleak, that works really well. I like it. Good job.
Oh, great. Oh, good.
You did it right.
Yeah, I
right
said
on-
it with my
off the
full
tip of
chest.
your
I'm
head.
so
Wow.
confident in it right off the
yeah.
bat. Novembleak, slay.
Slay. But I think I mentioned at the end of last episode, I watched this movie for the first time in high school. So that was not in 2002. Let's not age myself up. I was a child in 2002. But it was like 2010. And it was my environmental science AP class, and we watched this during class because you know what? I can kind of see why. Pandemics, environment,
Blah,
the
blah,
world
blah,
being taken back.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yada, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Insert
Horses run
thing
free.
that explains it.
You guys
here.
get it. Yeah.
You get it. You understand. So it wasn't just my AP environmental science teacher wanting to take a break. This was educational. And it is, like, honestly, a great film. I don't know if you guys liked it, but watching it again, I was like, it holds up for me.
Yeah, I mean, I had never seen it before. I only knew that it was a zombie movie or zombie adjacent, I guess, because they do that same thing that a lot of zombie movies do, where they go, they're not technically zombies, and it's like, okay, but they're zombies, and we all know that.
But they are.
But they are. They're zombies.
They're zombies.
But
I agree.
I knew that, and I knew there was 28 weeks later, and as far as I know, there's not.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
I was like 28 years later. We'll have to wait for that
Well,
one, I guess.
We'll get into it. There's talks, but not
Could be
yet. Not
months.
yet.
Could be months.
They've talked
but
about
we're
it.
a little beyond that. I would just skip 2 years at this point, and then you could set it in the future, and everything could be chrome. As I'm
Yeah,
sure things will be in just a
of
few
course.
short years.
In 5 years from now,
Yeah.
of course, it will be chrome.
It'll be completely chrome. Yeah, as
everything will
we've
be
discussed so many times. Yeah.
SpongeBob never lies, so
The host never lies. So yeah, but I went in pretty blind about what the actual plot was, other than you told me that Cillian Murphy was in this. And then I saw one of you when you started watching, you sent some text messages, not big spoilery ones, but like you said there's a dick in this movie, and then there was a dick in this movie so fast.
There was
that's
a quick dick in this
it
movie.
was right away. It was right away. So I
And
knew
may
it
I
would lure
just
you
say,
in.
did he like volunteer to do so many nude scenes? Because it really felt like they were not plot necessary or relevant. It just felt like someone involved was like, wouldn't it be fun if his dick was out?
They're trying to make it grittier. They're like, what makes something gritty? What's grittier than a
Nudity.
dick? There you go.
This is real art, and so there is nudity. There's nothing more
is.
primal than the human body bared just down to the skin, blah blah blah. Probably is what they said.
I think for sure. In that voice, definitely
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Well, okay, it is got some like fucking prestige actors and prestige writer directors for this movie, because it's written by Alex Garland, who did Annihilation, he did Ex Machina, he just did Men.
Oh,
So I fucking love his shit. And also it was directed by Danny Boyle, and Danny Boyle is like very, very well known. Trainspotting, which I haven't fucking seen. There are a bunch of other ones too, but none of them are coming to mind right now, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a really there they are. I had a list. Danny Boyle, Slumdog Millionaire, and then Yesterday,
Oh.
which is like a little bit of a change.
he loves to genre hop, it seems.
Yeah. He didn't want to go back to horror right away. He said that about
He said,
doing
look,
the sequel.
I like to try out lots of different things. I'm a filmmaker, okay?
But yeah, I mean, you're just saying something about how like, so many zombie movies do that thing where like they say it's not a real zombie, they say it's something else. Well, this movie like set like the 2000s at like the Y2K standards for zombie movies, because like it was like, what is his name? Oh my God, who did Dawn of the Dead and all of that? Romero. Okay, there we go. We got it. What's his first name? Somebody help me. Somebody. It's not Frank.
Oh, are you sure?
It maybe. I thought it was
George.
something else. It's
George.
Who's Frank?
I don't know who Frank is. George Romero. So George Romero, like, and his co-director person that I can't remember his name right now. Because remember we did this in Returning of the Living Dead. of the Living Dead was one of the guys, and the other guy is George Romero. And George Romero did Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and all those ones. He did all the Of the Dead movies, and the Living Dead movies
like,
was
split
the
the
other
title.
guy. Can't
Yeah.
remember his name right now.
Return
We'll
of the
Google
Dead
it.
was Dan O'Bannon.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dan O'Bannon. It was
You had a
Dan
good
O'Bannon.
man.
Thank you so much. And George Romero. And they were like the daddies of
They were the zombie guys.
Zombies. Yeah.
The zaddies.
The
Zombie
zaddies of
daddies.
zombies. Holy shit. Zombie zaddies.
I want to know is who directed Zombies 1 through 3 for Disney Channel, because that is the new
George
wave
Romero.
of zombies.
Oh my
George
God.
Romero
Yeah.
came back just for those.
My friend Terry is in Zombies 3 and they're really good in it. So you should watch Zombies 3. Anyway. Anyway, back to the movie. But yeah, this movie was amazing because like it was Alex Garland. He was playing Resident Evil, the video game, and he was like, this is fun, but it's only fun because you don't have that many bullets to kill these zombies. They're not that big of a threat otherwise. And he was thinking about zombies and he was like, zombies have gotten pretty tired. No one did anything cool with zombies in the 90s. I'm sure that's an extrapolation. I'm sure there was something cool with zombies in the 90s. I just don't know
I'm
what
Googling
it is
right now.
But it got like kind of tired, because like I get why y'all
Scooby-Doo and
don't...
Zombie Island. Wow,
Okay, that's an
he
incredible
needs to
one.
eat his words.
Literally,
Okay. In a serious vein, you know what I mean? But yeah, he was like, what are some ways to make zombies interesting again. And so he came up with this idea where zombies are actually a threat. And so thus these fast zombies, I know you hate fast zombies, were born. But I just want to say that they didn't actually originate with this movie. So you can't get totally mad at Alex Garland. Okay. There was like an 80s movie that the fast zombies first started with, and it wasn't that good. And so it's fine. But that was, what was it? I can't find it now. In my notes, I wrote all these things down, like fast zombies and stuff. But yeah,
These
basically
don't feel like outlandishly fast. They feel like reasonably fast in this movie.
They're
totally, it's
moderately
not-
fast.
They're like normal
Yeah.
human fast, which I think is allowed. You know, they're human. It's when
Yeah.
they're superhuman fast that I get mad because it's like, that's
okay,
cheating.
good. I think good. I'm glad that it didn't make you mad, because when I was reading all this stuff, it was like fast zombies, fast zombies. I was like, they're gonna be rageful that this started the fast zombies scene. But like it inspired like all of those 2000s horror movies that we got that were about these fucking zombies. We got 28 Days Later, followed by Wreck, Dawn of the Dead, the redo, obviously. Planet Terror, winky face. You guys know why I'm winking. Y'all will find out soon. 28 Weeks Later, and there are just a whole slew of them that didn't, maybe as well, maybe not as well. World War Z was an example of it doing not so well.
yeah, that's honestly my primary zombie enemy piece of media. But I haven't read the book, which I hear is good and completely unlike the film in pretty much every way. So,
oh well, we'll have to give it another chance then. I haven't read any zombie books. That's something to put on the list.
My understanding is that it's very like from a bunch of different perspectives, like interviews from people all around the world about the zombie outbreak. And then the movie was like, what if Brad Pitt was the star?
Okay.
What if?
What
We can
if?
find
What
out
if? So creative.
We can find out
my
at any
God.
time. Oh my God. I was in Point Lobos in California, and there was a man who worked for Point Lobos, and he had a telescope, and he's like, I was like, what's the telescope? Or not telescope, whatever. Something to see things far away. It's like binoculars.
Binoculars?
It was just one eye hole though, so it's different. It was
like a
scope.
monocle thing.
Monocle scope, whatever. Anyway, I was like, what is it facing towards? And he was like, Brad Pitt's house. So anyway, I looked at his house. Didn't see any fast zombies, so we're safe. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, the reason that I like zombies and I keep making us do zombie movies on this podcast, because there are two reasons. One, they can be really fucking funny and silly and ha ha ha, like Return of the Living Dead. We had a hoot and holler. That was great. Or it could be like this like very, very deep, sad look at humanity, because there's something about like when the monster is somebody that you used to know, someone that you loved, and they've turned into something else. It's like just so heart-wrenching. And so I think that this movie does a really good job of like showing, I don't know, just similar to The Mist in some ways, like how humanity reacts in like at the end of the world, it just really like diving into the human experience in conflict. And also you have Cillian Murphy's dick, so I mean it's got it all. It's got the schlocky and it's got the highbrow.
It's got the schlocky and the schlong.
Exactly. Wow.
Also,
you have a way with words.
What can I say? Cillian Murphy is like so baby girl in this movie.
He's so cute. This was one of his first roles. There was like, I read this really fun like oral history with Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, a couple other producers. And like one of them was like, yeah, Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris were like really early in their career. So we really had to pull some of these performances out of them. And I was like, eat your fucking words. Don't say that shit about babes. About Babe 1 and Babe 2. Okay. Because they're so incredible in this. And also like once again, another wonderful bisexual daydream. I know there's a lot of other things going on, but like being able to look at Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris throughout this movie, especially Naomi Harris's like very Y2K like pixie hair moment,
or
happening.
spiky hair.
I was very into it. I was just watching the music video for All the Things You Said by Tattoo, and one of those fake lesbians had, had a very similar hairstyle. It was in, okay? It was the moment.
That was literally some of my like favorite childhood pop culture drama, was finding out that the tattoo lesbians were fake.
It hurts. I don't like to
They
speak
did
of
it
it,
for
but
clout.
I've brought it up.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
How dare they queer bait us like that when we were children?
I know.
Yeah,
not
they
fair.
say celebrities can't queer bait, but what about tattoo?
Too.
Just kidding. Celebrities
What about
are just being themselves
tattoo?
most of the time. But look.
But anyway, I mean, the thing with this movie, I mean, we all had a really hard time trying to find it. So if you spooky had a hard time trying to find it, you were not alone. Sling TV is a great option. Or text me. But but
Yeah,
it was
just
really,
text her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
just text
casually
me.
text Monica.
Here's her number: 818-555.
DM me. Don't 555. Area code reveal. Oh my god. But like I almost had like the worst experience ever watching this because I found a way to watch it. I sent it to the girlies. I was like, this is it. And I was like, God, the music fucking sucks in this movie. It's so weird and so repetitive. And I went back and realized that it was just like someone had put a bad song on repeat in the background of the movie so it wouldn't get flagged by copyright.
It
Taken
literally
down on
wasn't
YouTube. Yeah.
even in the background. It was like in the
It was
foreground,
blaring.
and the
so-
movie was in the background.
It was like 10 seconds of audio too that was just like had this like jerky end and would start again on this weird loop. And I was like, this is such an interesting artistic choice. And then I went back to Sling TV and I was like, oh, this part
Wait
of the
a
film is
minute.
supposed to be utterly silent. Like, can you imagine watching the deserted fucking London scene with like
Yeah, I can't actually because I did it. Because
that was literally
I-
what it was.
I literally, I had never seen this movie before, and so I texted Monica, and I was like, "Is the soundtrack supposed to be like this? It's an
Is this
artistic
Is it supposed
choice."
to be LMFAO's party rock anthem
Right.
over and
Can you
over?
imagine?
I brought that
what's
song up
the most
specifically
tasteless
though.
song?
Well, that song, the music video is based on 28 Days Later, which it said in IMDb trivia. And then when you were like, there's so many
really?
alternate endings for this movie, I started to go watch those, and then I was like, actually, I should watch Party Rock Anthem music video so that I know what I'm talking about when I bring it up.
Oh my god.
And yeah,
What
it
happens in
fully
that?
starts with them like it has like they fell into a coma because they were partying too hard. Meanwhile, blah blah blah.
Red flag.
28 days later, and then it is them in a hospital bed, but they're not naked. They didn't go full dick out like Cillian Murphy. They
That's
have like their
surprising,
party outfits
honestly.
on.
I feel
Then
like
they go
Red Foo would
outside.
want
And
to
then
show
the guy
his
from My
dick off.
Zombie is there,
Oh my god.
which we talked about last week on our Malignant episode, because the Seattle underground blah blah blah, and that is a zombie show and this is a zombie thing. So like all of the pieces are really coming together in a way that we
Yes.
for sure 100% planned.
It's really, really
iZombie
beautiful.
is the only zombie like stuff that I like. I love me some iZombie.
It's a great show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was really confused too. Even once I got the actual movie and I was watching it the way God intended, the way Danny Boyle intended. I was like very taken aback by the beginning of this movie because it's tonally so different than the rest of the movie. It's so like shitty. It's so fast paced and like it drops you in the middle. It's like these fucking, do what you got to do, but like PETA people breaking into the testing center where eco-terrorists, where they're trying to save these chimpanzees' lives, which is a valiant effort. And it's not good to do testing on chimpanzees, and it's illegal now, I'm pretty sure. But at the same time, when the scientist tells you that they're infected by a virus, I mean, I feel like you should pause just for a second. Just for a second.
He's lying. He's just trying to stop us from doing our beautiful, beautiful duty to set these chimpanzees free. Monica, you're letting the man tell you what to do? No, obviously I'm going to let this chimp out of the cage and then it's gonna come eat my face, and then all of my friends are gonna go, ah! And like things are just gonna escalate from there.
I think that girl looks like Selma Blair, so I was sad to see her die first. Or I don't know, become a rage monster first. But yeah, I just watched Fall of the House of Usher. And
Yeah,
so,
I
like,
was having like flashbacks to that too.
if you know, you know. I mean, like,
I
a
don't know
chimpanzee is
yet.
a powerful beast. Well, Chelsea, you watched Nope. And so you know a
That's true, too.
chimpanzee is a powerful beast. And once wronged, they like, even if they're not filled with rage virus, they get angry and they're very
Rage
powerful and they
virus.
have thumbs. They have thumbs.
They're
They can
capable
fuck
of
you
rage
up.
even in their natural healthy state.
Yeah. I don't know. I do really like the design, the zombie design for this movie. Because I was reading that oral history, like I was telling you, and so part of the inspiration for the whole rage thing is that like numbers of like road rage incidents in the UK had been like really going up, so that was like top of mind for Alex Garland, I guess. And then also like Ebola was going fucking crazy, so people were thinking about pandemics, which, like, you know, this is like I've seen Outbreak. What's the other one? There's Outbreak, and then there's one other one. Contagion. I watched both of those the first week of the pandemic. Horrible decision. Thank God I didn't watch 28 Days Later.
I watched Contagion like week of pandemic.
Yep,
Mistake.
same. Yeah. Horrible. This is right up there with it. But the other thing that I loved, and which is also fucking timely for things we've been talking about this month in, what was it, Novembleak? They were trying to like mimic like images of people and animals with rabies for the zombies and some of the mannerisms of animals and people with rabies. And I loved that because we just were talking about how we need more rabies related horror. I was saying that I wanted more rabies related horror. And look at this. It already existed this whole time.
Oh my God, your dream came true.
This is just nth stage rabies. You turn into a rage zombie. That's what happens. That's why you
they call it rage. Like, okay.
Yeah, that is. See, like that whole setup scene was just so, like, I don't know, just cheesy. It was so cheesy. It was like the beginning of Malignant.
Rage.
Yeah. We need to cut out the cancer. You know, like they're infected with rage. Like that's the same thing.
Like if a scientist said that to me and I was trying to break these animals out, I for sure would not even go, they're sick. Oh my God. I would be like, you made them angry. Like, I'm not impressed. You know what I mean? You're not communicating to me the severity of the situation here. You said you infected them with rage. What does that mean, sir? Because
poke them a
I'm
bunch of times,
with
they
rage.
got mad.
Hearing you say that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he's not being very eloquent. So we do give them a little bit of that shade that I gave them. I take back a little bit, just a hair. But then thank God that was over. Then that part was over. Thank God. Because the rest of the movie I think is like not nearly as cheesy. And we get to see immediately Cillian's dick, as we talked about. And that was
was shocking.
It was shocking.
Because literally, why would he be naked? There's no reason. There's no reason for him to be naked other than they decided to do that for fun.
You're never naked in the hospital bed. They give you the little buttless dress. So we could
like,
have still seen his butt.
There was a zombie outbreak happening and everything was going so fast and I needed to get out of there and I had no other cover. I had to steal this man's hospital gown off of his body and leave him behind. That, like, it's like, I commend him for showing his dick. We love that here. It's so brave when male actors decide to
especially in the early aughts,
settle the score a little bit. Yeah, like back in the day, he really committed to that. And like, kudos. But it just really seems like he wanted us to see it.
You know what? I'm glad. Good.
He did have a closed set, though. IMDb said that he had a closed set for all of his nudity scenes, which is so interesting to me. But, sometimes it is like you're okay to share things with people, but under the right conditions. So like he needed his
Totally.
vulnerability protected in person during filming.
I
So
think
that
it's
he could be vulnerable on the national stage.
He said, I didn't
It's-
want my coworkers seeing my pee until the very end.
It's
different.
art now, but it's nudity in person.
It's different if you're like on stage and there's 100 people and they're looking at your dick, then like a picture of your dick is on the screen. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you aren't in that body at that moment. You're third person
the
looking at your
character's
own
dick.
dick. You know what I mean? Exactly. And
That's
too.
Jim's dick. That's
Yeah.
not even Cillian Murphy's
That's
dick.
Jim's
That's
dick.
Jim's dick.
That's
That's
Jim,
Jim's dick.
actually.
Okay, but off the dick,
What
on
do
to
men
other
call their
things.
dicks when they
Schlong. Oh, sorry.
they're John? That's
Hen-
Jim's
hen-
job.
That's Jim,
Oh,
Jimmy John.
Johnson.
That's Jim's Johnson.
That's Jim's Johnson.
Sydney's trying to make it into a sandwich shop. She's hungry.
I
my
actually
God.
am really hungry.
I actually am really hungry right now too. All this talk about Cillian Murphy's dick.
made me feel hungry.
Well,
They're
I
ready
mean, and
to
then he
gobble up some sort of snack over there.
he woke up hungry too. I mean, he's been asleep for 28 days, and
True, he had
no
to
one
go
is...
right to the Pepsi machine.
I don't blame
mean-
him, except Pepsi.
The way this
Yeah.
movie was sponsored by Pepsi in the first like 20 minutes.
Seriously.
They said after that, do your thing. But the first 20 minutes, we needed to be Pepsi.
Well, they needed someone to sponsor closing down all of London. That shit's not cheap.
That's true.
Yeah, even though they only had it closed down for like 2 hours.
And they did
And-
it at like weird times. So it would be like right after like daybreak.
Yeah, they did like 4 a.m. was when they would start. And apparently this was one of the first movies to be shot entirely on digital. Which is interesting because I was like, why does the movie look like that? But because we had to get creative to watch it, I wasn't sure if that was what the movie looked like.
No,
or
that's
not.
what the movie's supposed to look like. Like, and
That's
it
what the movie's
aged
supposed
yeah,
to look like.
really poorly, quite frankly.
It looks like they shot it all on handheld camcorders, like family video style, which kind of
I
is
like
what they
it.
were going for in the sense that
Yeah.
per IMDb trivia, they said that they wanted, quote, the general idea was to try and shoot as though we were survivors too. So they are trying to
And
give
they-
it that like handheld quality and like that you're like running along with them. So it definitely lends that vibe for sure, but it also
And
kind
they
of
wanted
looks
it
like
to-
they filmed it with their friends. In their
And they wanted
backyard.
it to look like news footage, like footage that someone might have sent into the news channel while it was breaking out.
Mm.
And also, they had like a really small budget for this. It was like eight.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it was just low
$8
budget.
million, and like they're like, there's no way we'll be able to get the film camera equipment around in London in the allotted time that we have
Yeah.
to do this, and so they had to do it that way. And so then they kind of leaned into it, and they liked how the video like made it so you couldn't totally see what was happening in some of the action shots.
Mhm.
Which like adds to the chaos of what's going on. So I think it worked. I don't know. I thought it was homey.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that was a big part of it for sure. Is like if you only have an hour with the road and you're shutting down a whole freeway, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
only
that
have
was
so
a
much
big part
time
of
you
it.
need to. So like definitely per IMDb trivia, these cameras allowed them to get the shots that they needed in the time that they had. Like it just wouldn't have been possible using film cameras because I guess
They're big.
takes a long time to set those up. Yeah, you can't just like start
Can't just
rolling,
run around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you know, I guess it just wouldn't have been possible to do it literally any other way unless they were like a big budget production. But they definitely, I think the low budget like worked for their vibes for sure.
I think so too. I think it like adds to the 2002 of it all.
Mhm.
All of this shot pre 9/11, gotta bring that up.
Some of
Well-
it shot on and post 9/11 Sydney.
No, exactly.
The
That's the whole
celebration scene
thing.
apparently shot on 9/11.
Yeah,
Ooh.
And they were like, so
No,
weird
that
to be
was a-
cheersing on 9/11.
That was like a big part of the movie coming out. They were like, they wouldn't have let us do that London scene if it had been a few months later or however long later, because like it would have been directly after 9/11 and it would have been too crazy and too like unsettling to people to see a bus overturn in the middle of the road and all of that in the aftermath of what happened on 9/11. So
I think part of it
the
was
timing was
also
lucky.
Yeah, the London shot, one of the ones that they were talking about on IMDb trivia was like the missing persons flyer one, where there's like all
Yes.
people are like looking for their loved ones as the infection is spreading. And I guess there were similar style scenes I don't know what to call it, moments like that in real life.
Yeah, real life
after
that
people were like
happened.
looking for their loved ones post tragedies, and they pulled from real life inspiration from that. They just didn't pull from 9/11 inspiration because it hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But
And they made those,
yeah, they
some poor
specifically
girl
said
made
like
those all
they specifically
herself.
said like we wouldn't have done that shot afterwards if we had done it afterwards. It's just, time being chronological most of the time in the way that it is.
No,
The
totally.
way
It
that
was
we
like
experience it.
it wouldn't have happened. So many things changed after that, and so this snuck in just before it happened. But also, it was a big part of the reason why this movie did so well. It got like 83 million or something at the box office with like a 8 million, or maybe it was billion. With
What?
like a $8 million, not billion. I think it was million. Sorry, not billion, not billion. I'm sorry.
$83 billion.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. But it was $83 million. We're moving on. And
Maybe it was 83 billion. I don't could have been.
but it's 84, excuse me, $84.6 million.
That explains
That's
the
what I was
confusion.
thinking.
Yeah.
On a tiny $8 billion budget. On an $8 million budget.
Oh my god. Things are getting out of hand over here.
No, but it was just because I'm trying to talk about 9/11, Chelsea. Jesus fucking Christ.
It all comes back to 9/11 always on this podcast, Chelsea. Your birthday, you should know better.
You should know better.
Oh
But
my god,
anyway,
sorry.
people were just like really like scared of big cities now in ways that they weren't before. Because like big city used to seem like a safe place to be. There's people around, blah 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 blah. But then this happens and it was the absolute worst place to possibly be. And then they show these images of London, a bustling metropolis, absolutely dead, nothing there, not a single soul on the street. And so it really hit for people. But one of the things I thought was funny about this part, even though we're talking about 9/11, they were like, what do we do about
who's not respectful now?
It's not about 9/11. We're moving on. The issue that they were having is they're like, what do we do about all the birds that are just like in London? And they're like, and we just decided that the birds survived the rage virus.
Fair enough. I mean, they don't really get into the animal stuff much, other than they kind of talk about it with the horses. But all of the science is based on like primate to primate infection. So I think you can kind of extrapolate from there if you want to.
Yeah, there's like this moment like
rats are
with
like
the
seemingly
horses.
fine also. Nobody's worried about the rats when the rats crawl all over Hannah.
I was worried about that because
I mean, I was worried. Yeah.
Rats.
Well,
there's different
There's
things.
lots of other stuff going on.
There's the part with the horses, and the daughter was like, oh, do you think the horses are infected? And he was like, no, I don't. Look at them. They're happy and joyous, beautiful family.
They don't
of
feel
horses.
Adorable little family.
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine if the birds got the rage virus. You'd be fucked. They'd come peck you to death. Seagulls
it'd
with
be the
rage
birds.
virus.
It would literally be the birds.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. And they couldn't do that. They can't do that movie again. Don't make a sequel to the birds. It made me too angry the first time around. But anyway, I don't know. I just really love that opening sequence. It's just so really beautifully done. And I loved, again, the sound design for that scene too, because once I got rid of all of my technical difficulties, it's like total silence. There's barely any dialogue once you get back past the cheesy opening. It's just him saying hello in a myriad of places, and him walking in silence in London. And then this song just starts low, and it like builds into this huge, like overwhelming crescendo. I don't know. It's an art film. It's beautiful. I was moved.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting, those opening shots, though, because like it is so baffling, and you sort of expect from a disaster movie, if you want to qualify it in that way, that you would see more evidence of disaster in the streets as opposed to just emptiness. But as I was like reading IMDb trivia and thinking about it, I was like, well, it is kind of like an infection quarantine movie. So if you have the argument that like they were spreading this awareness from the beginning and people were staying inside, much like our 2020 pandemic, like, yeah, those streets really were empty. Like, people, if they're getting sick, they're going to be getting sick in their home, not in the middle of the street necessarily.
You're trying to take shelter from those things
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So it's, it's one of those things where it's like you could go for like army tanks in the middle of the city, the way that like Walking Dead, for example, which we'll touch on more at some point because there's like a lot of going on in here, of overlap. But like that really had the whole like when you get to the big city, it's clear that there was like major fallout here. And like when you're on the freeways, there's like a zillion cars like all piled up and stuff like that. It's not like clear roads for the most part. But when it's an infection and people are being told to stay home, we know what that looks like now. And we know how that can just be like quiet streets, not much out and about.
Totally. And I think it really added to the pacing of the beginning of this movie too, where like you're just as confused as Cillian Murphy is, as Jim is, because I mean, this is probably going in that this is gonna be a zombie movie, but you haven't seen anything yet. We haven't seen anything yet. We've just seen these chimpanzees and they're angry and they're vomiting blood on everyone and
They're
blah, blah, blah.
full of rage, which still gets me, quite frankly.
But yeah, I mean, for me, when I walk around in downtown LA, and there's a lot of places where there is not a single fucking soul because nobody hangs out in downtown right now. I hope it comes back. Anyway, there's like been these many times where I've been this one certain mall. There's not a single soul there, and my mind always goes zombies. There are zombies around the corner, and I think it must have come from this movie, or maybe Dawn of the Dead, where they're literally in a mall. But
Boys.
it's the calm before the storm sort of thing, and so I think it lets you be disoriented and feel that like ominous, like, oh fuck, what's coming. And then I think it makes the church scene hit even harder. I thought the church scene was so fucking awesome. Like, he walks in, the fucking cross is hanging above him. He walks up the stairs, and what does the wall say? The end is like extremely fucking nigh.
Yeah.
So funny. And then he finally makes it up into the main part of the church, and there's just like 200 dead people in there. And he's like,
and they're like,
that's where they all
up.
went to pray. Well, do you think that they all killed themselves in there? Because whenever I see someone just like sitting there, like, what do they do? Just starve? Like, I don't know. Like,
the imagery that they were like basing this on was from like real periods of social unrest in other countries, and how people had like moved the bodies into the church a lot of the time, which I think is part of why when he calls out, you don't necessarily see like a lot of, they're not all getting up and moving en masse. You know what I mean? Like, they're not
they're all
rage
dead
zombies in there. Exactly.
No, they're
so
dead.
It's like,
yeah, they're corpses.
The dead were moved in there as opposed to like people going in and dying. Because the way that they would die is not necessarily so peaceful, such as that.
Because like later on in the movie, whenever I see anyone who's dead who's just at peace, I was like, why the fuck would they have died that way? Wouldn't they be like ripped apart or a zombie right now? And then later on, when he sees his parents, it's because they took pills to die. So that,
which was like, so sad. They had the little suicide note for him.
Was so sad. The little, I hope you never, like, you're still sleeping. Now we're sleeping with you. I hope you don't wake up. Oh my God.
A little a little kiss for mom and dad.
Ugh.
But yeah, I mean, they also introduced the concept of like maybe these zombies will die over time, die of starvation. And
which
we
makes
don't
sense.
know. Yeah, I mean,
they're
especially because they're not zombies, so they're not already dead and brought back to life. They're infected people, and people die, especially after they've had infections. And if you're dehydrated, it really doesn't take that long necessarily. So they don't really answer the question of how long that takes. But we can kind of decide for ourselves that, you know, a lot of these could have just been infected people that lost juice at some point.
It's too orderly for that. I don't know. There's an argument for a Jim Jones situation, just saying. But
Well,
yeah,
we say it all the time. So, I mean, yeah.
I know. I mean, more power to him, I guess. You know, what are you gonna do? Well, it's a fast moving thing. But I don't know. I love the introduction of seeing the zombies for the first time when they just pop up as soon as he says hello, and he's like, there's something weird there. And the fact that it's I know it's cheesy or whatever, but I love that it was the father, like the pastor, who comes at him first in his cloak. It's not a cloak. Gown, not a gown.
His garb.
Someone who is religious, please drop in.
Where's
anything.
Andy?
Where's
His
Where's
cloth.
the Reverend of the pod?
Yeah, where's our own personal reverend that we have personally?
We have
'cause
a reverend.
We
by the
Lord
way.
knows we need it.
Yeah, we have a reverend, and he's the best. Love you, Andy.
Love you, Andy.
But yeah, I mean, and we get finally introduced to our cutie hotties. I am so obsessed with Naomi Harris, with Selena. She is everything. She is the moment. She is everything to me. And I think Mark could have been everything to me too. I mean, I'm looking at his picture on IMDb right now, and he is a hunk of a man. Noah Huntley. But we didn't get to know him for too long. I'm just glad that we got a cute little band, a little trio there for a second. Because you gotta have friends during the apocalypse, am I right?
It's nice to have a friend.
I mean, yeah, you'll hear in our closing quote, but like that is the point of life to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, is the point of life to just survive? Or is the point of life to experience life with people that you care about and love, etc., etc., etc.? It's about relationships. It's about experiences.
Totally. Oh my God. I just love the concept of this movie though. Like, imagine being Jim and you're like, what the fuck? Like, why did the pastor just try to eat me? And now everybody's shooting guns and I don't understand. And now I'm stuck in a fucking convenience store and all I can eat is Maltesers. This movie's so perfectly British too. I just, oh.
Are Maltesers the same as Whoppers, or are they a different thing? No, they are
a little bit. Well, yeah. They're little different chocolate, I think. Are they literally the exact same thing, just rebranded?
I think they are the same thing, but there is a different candy called Whoppers maybe already in something like that. What's the difference? I don't know. Whoppers.
I don't know. I just like the name Maltese.
Is another name in Australia.
I don't like either of those very much, but I do like the name Maltesers a lot. So
Maltesers is a great name.
It is. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, even though Selena talks a big game from the beginning that like, it's just like, you survive or that's it. And I will kill you where you stand if you become a zombie immediately. And I'm not heartless, but like tough. And I've gotten rid of my human emotions so I can survive. That's why I've survived.
I'm taking no shit.
Exactly. But like the fact that she even lets them go try to find his parents.
Yeah.
At his parents' house. I mean, she obviously cares about that sort of thing for him, and we'll give him that because that's a risk. That's a fucking risk. To go anywhere is a risk.
Although, I mean, I guess what's the alternative? Just chill in the convenience store forever. So, like, it's something to do. Should have at least.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things that was pointed out about this movie is that it's very rare for horror movies to like change locations as much as this one does. Usually people stay in one place, and it's like makes a lot of sense from like a, I don't know, budgetary perspective, and then a story perspective. You're all in like, you can really like zone in on the horror when you're not going everywhere. But like, I think that's the reason that they stay alive, is because they're always on the move. Like when you hunker down, like you're gonna get cornered eventually. Except, I mean,
we're gonna get comfortable and then you're gonna get lazy.
Exactly.
As opposed to staying on guard.
Yeah. But I mean, the part where Jim goes home is super devastating. We already touched on how he finds his parents dead in a loving embrace, like those skeletons. It was just like those skeletons who were in love. You know what I'm talking about. I don't have to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
anything more. But his fucking like hallucination he was having, when he was in the kitchen, he saw the picture of his parents, and he starts having this like vision of him coming home, or a memory or something like that. Looked like a home video. And then all of a sudden you're just like punched in the face with zombies flying through the fucking window and like, was it the skylight?
Yeah.
That got me so bad. I had my volume up way too high and I almost peed my pants. That was the biggest scare of the movie for me. I was like shaken to my core, and I had a task rabbit in the house. So I was like, you can't scream. You're going to scare this man. But I thought that was just like mean of them to do that. He's having this nice little hallucination memory thing. And
And
then
Let the man hallucinate in
unfair.
peace.
Stakes wise, like one candle and they see you and they're on their way. The glow of one candle through the window is enough to attract them, but I guess they only live 4 doors down.
they're hungry. They're hungry. They're out on their zombie
They're angry.
evening stroll, you know? Yeah, they're rageful. And yeah, they don't eat people. That's the whole thing. So this isn't a zombie's brain thing. They just see other people and they're like, I'm going to fuck you up. That's my whole thing. I love
Google
doing
I'm
said
that.
gonna
that
fuck
they
you
live
up,
off
and the weapons
blood.
I have at my disposal. I don't know that we get into that. They vomit blood a lot, but they just don't really get into
Yeah.
what sustains them. It's not in the scope
Yeah.
of the film.
It doesn't really say. Like they
hit
wanted
the
like
internet
in the
said.
oral history that I read, they like mentioned how like they didn't have them be motivated by eating brains or anything like that, but they didn't really.
It's just they're
into
motivated
it
by
more than that.
rage, and I
They
have
do
my
bite,
claws,
though.
which are my hands, and I have my teeth, which are my other weapons. And I guess I could kick and stomp things, but like, you know, that feels like a more human brain intact trying to cause damage
Yeah.
than like a primal thing.
But I'm
I
sure they take a
too
bunch
am
of
motivated by rage.
I know this
And
about
it's
you.
fight.
relatable. It's relatable. But I'm sure they take a munch. I mean, if you're already biting, you
Why
might
not
as
do a little
well
nibble?
try it. Why not try it? It's already in your mouth. Oh, I'm so sorry.
What is a bite on the butt between friends? Here, give me a nibble.
Oh my God. But I mean, this movie really like changes pace dramatically after that. I mean, we lose Mark. And part of me thinks,
R.I.P.
did Selena just hate him? Imagine if she was just like, oh, it looks like he got bit. Better kill him
Oh
right
no!
away.
Yeah. I have been looking for a way out of this partnership. I didn't want to be alone, but now that I've got this other guy here, Mark can go.
Yeah, she's like, I think Jim's cuter. So bye, Mark.
Yeah, that's she said that's baby girl actually.
Actually,
Jim is baby girl, so it makes sense. But can I tell you, I was so happy to see Brendan Gleeson in this movie. I
like
did not
Placid
remember
star
him.
Brendan Gleeson.
Season.
I love him so much. Mad Eye Mooey, Banshees of Inisherin. He loves to be in pastoral places, being moody.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like he's really good at it. And I just loved like this segment of the movie, like part 2
Yeah.
of the movie, when they like kind of create this little family. Like when I was watching this whole part, I was just like, it's the feel good zombie movie of the year. Like it's so wonderful.
I understand where what is it, Zombieland, where they get it from. Like they're in a grocery store. They have found a family and a community together. Like, okay, pop off, queen.
They're so cute. And like, it's so clear. Like they've obviously lost the mom of the family. And so it's just Frank and what's her name? Hannah?
Hannah.
Yeah, it's just them on their own. And you can see how Hannah's had to become so self-reliant and stuff. But dad's still, you know, protecting her. And I don't know. I just really loved the dynamic. I think the acting was really great in this. So it did a lot for the character development. And it was just really beautiful to see like Selena soften up a little bit, even though she's put on this hard shell to fucking stay alive. I don't blame her. But like when they get all their snacks and they go, they're so happy. And when Brendan Gleeson is like, "This is the type of scotch you should like, Jim. Let me
Oh, it's
tell you
so
all
peachy,
about."
but it's not, doesn't have the fire in it, but it has the warmth still, blah, blah, blah.
16
Yeah,
It was
he's
years
so
like,
later.
"Not
nice.
this one, the blue label, blah, blah,
He's
blah."
it was so cute. Jim didn't give a shit. He was really trying, and they look at the horses. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And it
Yeah, they deserved that. A nice little treat.
takes little time. And Cillian Murphy had to kill a baby. That did suck though in the middle of that, but it made him hold Hannah and the dad and all of them closer in his heart.
Okay, but why is that the only zombie that speaks?
Oh, does it say? I don't
It
remember what
says,
it
"I
said.
hate you," which makes sense for a person infected with rage, likely thing for a rage person to say. But that's
They tried to
according to
humanize
IMDb
it even
trivia.
more.
Yeah, according to IMDb trivia, even in 28 weeks later, this is the only time across the movies, across the franchise, that any of them say anything. And so I'm just wondering, like, what's going on with that? What's that about?
It's because
Maybe
that
because it was a
boy was
baby.
actually a moody preteen. And he had to say,
Mm,
"I
His
hate
moody
you."
preteen. It persevered. It
Yeah.
went
emo.
beyond the. Yeah, I don't like. Was he so freshly infected? Maybe he got infected 5 minutes before they rolled
Yeah.
up. I don't know.
I don't
But
know if he was a
interesting
freshie.
choice to make to never extrapolate on in any way throughout the rest of the movie or in sequel.
I'm actually so glad I was lightly distracted during that moment, and so I didn't notice that the baby spoke. Because yeah, that would have taken me out of it too.
It's so strange. It's so strange.
That's so bizarre. I mean, we get some good horror stuff in this part of the movie too, like the rats coming and running all over her, and like as the zombies are coming down, they're trying to change the tire, and Brendan Gleeson
Why
yeets the
though?
car up like the fucking adrenaline moms. He
Uh-huh.
becomes a
But
human
like
Jack.
Oh, he had to jump
the
all those cars and busted a tire. He
the
said
way that
extreme
they
sport.
just decided that that was like a good idea and actually we're having a fun time and actually it's like being on an amusement park ride and actually we're so high on getting fresh groceries that we're just being silly goofy. Yeah, obviously you busted a fucking tire after that. You were driving over things so willy-nilly.
Well, it's just so interesting to see, like, the second they have like any little bit of hope, like they're so different. They're like humans again. They're
Yeah,
like
that's
they
true.
have this goal finally to go to Manchester, which is where I studied abroad. So I was like, yeah, that is the homeland, that is salvation, except it wasn't. Um, but yeah, they're like just so excited to get out there. They're like, woohoo, we're gonna do something crazy. I'm like, okay, it's still a fucking rage pandemic. Calm down.
But yeah,
Don't
I
put
mean they're
daughter
so
behind the wheel.
yeah, when they let her drove when they let her drive. But a lot of that I guess was sort of like setting up for that specific driving moment later in the film, maybe. Like a little groundwork there. I liked just seeing their human moments though too, because that is so like again, the thesis, which we already kind of talked on, but like what's the point of staying alive if there's nothing to go on for, which
Yeah.
this movie really gets into in both
Yeah, there's
beautiful
nothing to
ways and
live for.
horrific ways
Yes.
later on.
Uh,
But to just like let them have those like peaceful moments where they're just like building human connections. They're being silly, like when Selena goes to sleep right away, and then they're like, "Hey, Selena, how'd you go to sleep?" Like the way he wakes her up to ask her that is shut the fuck up, bitch. Like how don't do that. Like that is so
he's
Like,
like
don't
Big
ask me
Brother.
questions.
He's
yeah,
like Big
the
Brother
only reason he can get
immediately.
away with that is because he's so baby girl.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would have been game over from him at that point.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, it's just nice to see them be sweet because
It's
God
so
knows you
sweet.
need that before the end of the movie because the end of the movie is why it's Novembleak.
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 Because oh my god, I like blocked out the whole like part 3. Let's say of the movie,
With Doctor?
which like I'm really glad.
The Doctor?
Huh? With yes, the
Yeah,
doctor, Christopher Eccleston. I thought it was Ralph Fiennes. I really
I
thought it was Ralph
know. She
Fiennes.
confused
I
the
really
doctor with
thought it was
Voldemort.
him. I recognized him. I was like, I know that
They
man's
do
face like
look
the back of my
similar.
hand. And it was
Wrong.
because I was a huge fucking Doctor Who fan. But I have seen Christopher Eccleston in that one season of television and then in nothing ever again in my entire fucking life, except for
And
apparently
like
this movie.
Ralph
And I see
Fiennes
Ralph
in the
Fiennes every
menu,
day.
it's they're lookalikes for sure.
They do look alike. Okay, thank you. And also,
No,
I don't
you're
know what
right.
Ralph Fiennes looked like young. I don't. That's not something
Could
for
have
me to
looked
know
just
He
like
yet.
could have looked
this.
like anybody.
He could have looked like anybody. I don't know what he looks like with hair. What do you expect from me? But oh my god. Before we get to him, the fucking the fucking blood in the eye thing, that the second that he was getting all angry at that bird, I was like, oh fuck, I remember this so viscerally. That's like a almost the Mist moment. We're gonna talk about the end of the Mist for a second here tangentially. If you don't know what I'm about to talk
Oh my
about,
god, big
go
spoilers for
away.
the end of the
Go
Mist.
away.
Yeah, fuck off.
Fuck off, and then come back in 3 minutes. But yeah, like that was just like they were again so fucking close to what they thought was salvation. Obviously the movie turns out differently, but like he got so angry that immediately it wasn't like the golden gates of heaven, this wasn't like immediately like a million army men being like, hello, here's some hot cocoa, you know what I mean? That he had a little fit, and as someone who had a little fit earlier today, I get it. Sometimes you have a little fit, but don't fuck with birds when you're having a little fit. That's a lesson to be learned. You will get zombie blood in your eye, and you will die seconds before salvation comes to save you.
Yeah, I mean, related to the Mist, I think is the issue of like, it's hard enough to be in an apocalyptic scenario, and then it is additionally hard to be a parent in an apocalyptic scenario because like not only are you trying to survive and help the people around you survive, but also you're trying to not be like afraid at all so that your child isn't afraid, so that your child doesn't realize like fully how grim things are. And I think that's his freak out at the end, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is like they were able
Just
to,
pent
when they
up.
were still in the apartment block, they had their like Christmas lights and they were
They
able
had
to
their
pin
creme
their
de
hopes
menthe.
on like, we'll bring someone in, we'll bolster our team, we'll like, once we have more people, we can venture out into the world. We have been listening to this broadcast. And then from that point, they have a goal in mind. At least we'll get here and then things will be different or better, or we'll be able to figure out next steps. They get there, it's not what they were expecting. Not only that, but there's like nothing to be worked with here as far as they can tell at first, and now he doesn't know what to do, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's been trying to be strong for his daughter this whole time. He just needs a fucking moment to break down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Selena and Mark and Jim can all be shitty to each other and be like grim dark to each other and be like, and I'll fucking kill you and you kill me and blah blah blah, and takes 20 seconds. But like he's a dad and he's trying to be strong for his daughter, and he needs to take a moment to not be strong for somebody else, and unfortunately it is his undoing.
It is. I mean that again, we've said this a little bit already, but like that's what I think is such a strong point of this movie. It's like a very human movie. It shows all of the iterations of humanity, the sweet parts where they're looking at a horse and they're bonding over not wanting chocolate except for the orange kind in the shape of an orange.
Except for Terry's chocolate orange.
Yeah, that shit is so good. But yeah, they're showing those lovely parts. They're showing that like even though he's been a great dad this whole time, he needs to break down. And then they're showing the fucking horrible feral parts of humanity that come out when you're deprived of the niceties that you've been accustomed to for your whole life, which is still like, oh my god.
Yeah,
and I think
so
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Just really quick. I just think it's also in stark contrast to The Mist. The Mist tried to do that same thing. It succeeded in a lot of it, but the writing, like the words they were saying, was so fucking weird. The dialogue was so weird. It didn't like stick as hard. But I think this one, with the performances being what they were and the dialogue being pretty good, it did more. It did what The Mist was trying to do a little bit better for me. Anyway, what were you gonna say, Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say about that moment is also just that, like, what's done so well about it is that the parts that make you mad, where it almost seems like an oversight of the film at first, or like convenience for the sake of storytelling, has a purpose. Like, okay, he gets the blood in his eye, he starts freaking out, Jim has to maybe kill him, and then the army guys come out and they save the day. Oh my gosh. And it's like, convenient that they waited until now to pop out. Like, oh, convenient that they couldn't have popped out earlier. I guess we had to show somebody die for the sakes of the film. No, we learn later that these bitches waited on purpose, probably, to do anything, because they're taking
Yeah.
out the seeming leader of that group. They're
I didn't
taking
even
out the
think
like
about that.
adult man threat in that group. I don't know why
Little
they were
bitches.
like willing to Jake Jim in, other than maybe they could tell Brendan Gleeson was like Hannah's dad, and so they were like, well, that's not going to work out for our
Yeah.
plans.
Maybe we can sway
But
Jim to our
maybe Jim
side.
can like join us. We need able-bodied men.
He kind of looks like a fuck boy, though he
He was
also looks like
younger
baby
too,
girl.
so like
Yeah, I mean, but it is, once you're thinking about it in terms of they are looking for women specifically,
Yeah, they're
and
like
they
one male
want
and two
women who are
females.
beholden to them in some way. They are both trying to dispose of Brendan Gleeson, who they don't need or want to take in, and they are also being like, look, now we saved you from him, so we're your saviors and we can take
So
you back to our camp.
manipulative and low-key like evil brilliant, but brilliant,
hate
they plan
it.
that shit out well. They trap them good. I should have known with Christopher Eccleston having his little blondie moment, something was amiss.
Listen, you know how we feel about blonde men. They are not to be trusted.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. And didn't he have a little earring? I was like, it's too sexy. Something's wrong.
We're in danger.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked around and like before, because I didn't remember what happened, I was like, there's too many fucking dudes. It's all dudes. Like, why is Salvation all dudes? Like, that's a red fucking flag. I don't want to live if it's all men.
What a terrible idea it is to be one of very few women alone on an army base full of men.
Literally
Because
so scary.
even when it's not the end times, we know that I guess I can't speak to other militaries. I only know about the American military, but we know that there is a sexual assault problem in the military. And that is when there isn't the future Earth to be repopulated or whatever. That's when people are just terrible sometimes. And like they say about the military, it's one of those things where it's like you'll meet the best people and the worst people, because some people join the military because it gives them free reign to be violent, and some people join the military because they want to be a protecting force.
Altruistic,
And when it's the end of the world and you're one of the good guys or whatever, and you're surrounded by a whole bunch of bad guys, and the guy in charge is one of the bad guys, and he is actively trying to weed out the good guys who are standing in his way, you become that one guy who gets like taken out of the equation. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's the saying about the bad apples, is like one bad apple spoils the bunch.
The whole bunch.
Yeah,
I mean, it's again like The Mist. We got Marcia Gay Harden. She's turning everyone into religious zealots. There's a lot of crossover here. But yeah, I mean, I did really like that one guy, the one good-ish apple. He was a little zany. He was a zany apple. But I love what he said though in that one moment after they all eat spoiled eggs. He's like, oh well, like it isn't unnatural what's happening. For like the vast history of the earth, humans weren't present, so it's just returning back to that. And I was like, nihilistic king, let's go. But also his little speech when they're in the basement, and he was like, I'm sure that everywhere else in the world is fine. I'm like, it's 2002. There's planes. There's planes. The rage probably
Yeah.
got on the plane. Well, I mean,
That's one of the mysteries
it doesn't
of
have a
this.
long carryover. That's the thing. Because you get it in 20 fucking seconds. I mean, they wouldn't like let a zombie stay on the plane. They'd ground the plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not a zombie, a rage guy, whatever you want to call these guys.
we've seen Train to Busan, and so we know how that can go, and that the public transport can be affected.
Yes.
And certainly it is not an impossibility that something could get into the cargo hold at the last minute or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? And I think they answer that question to some degree or I think possibly entirely in the sequel. Haven't seen it, don't know what happens in it. Just read on IMDb
Yeah.
trivia that
Different
it
cast of
addresses
characters
this.
completely, though.
But yeah, I mean they kind of touch on it a little. Mark and Selena say in the beginning, like, when we heard that there was like infections in Paris and New York. But also like we don't know for sure that was what was going on. It was a time of strife where the news is doing its best to report things, but also slowly shutting down.
Didn't
And then
even
you
seem
have
like it
the
was that
guy.
slow with this one. The way that Selena was telling it, it was like
Yeah,
pretty
I mean it's been a
quickly they were
month
in the
since
dark.
the
Yeah.
first infection, and already everything is completely shut down, so, and we don't know how long it's been shut down. It could have been shut down for 26 days and we're just 28 days late, or like 2 days after things went down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it could have happened so fast and he just was alive in the hospital for so long sleeping. He had
But do you
fluids
remember?
plugged into him that would keep him going for a good chunk.
And a lot of shit was going down at the transport centers because we hear Mark's story, which was so fucking horrific.
Mhm.
R.I.P.
So like her whole family gone in one fell swoop and she
And
was the
she
one
had to
there
kill
like
them.
putting them down basically. Yeah. So
Well, that'll fuck you right up, I'll
oh
say.
for sure. Yeah. I mean that'll do it. And it is not just like you lost everybody and who knows what happened and they got infected. It's like she specifically had to kill them, not even to save herself, but to try and save someone who it
Yeah.
turned out could not be saved. So
Yeah.
and that also explains why she's like so touched by Hannah
They're like
and
faux family
Hannah's
that they've
dad, Brendan
created.
Gleeson. Yeah, and so it's like that was what like turned her off in many ways. You know what I mean? That was when she shut down, was when that happened. And what like opened her up again is to see that like these relationships
Love
can still
survives.
exist. Love survives.
This is the romance film of the year. We should have done it during Romance Month. But I mean, the movie gets so horrific once we're in the army camp. I mean, just all the things that happen to these poor fucking women. They are forced into these fancy outfits, though the outfits are slay. I do have to say they're both they are slay. I was like, I shouldn't be thinking those fits are slay right now, but I am. And though horrific, it was a really good idea for Selena to give Hannah those drugs. And also she's so fucking funny when she's on the drugs. When she starts striking the fear in the hearts of these fucking soldiers, she's like, yeah, your friends, what happens if they don't come back? I bet you they're dead. Yeah, they're definitely dead. And they're not coming back. You'll probably die too. Like, she's so brutal. Such great psychological warfare.
She was serving cunt for sure.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Times two, her outfit and her vibes.
100%. But I just loved the takedown. It was like all their own stupidity that brought them down too. And I thought it was great. They were like humiliated as they went. Like the fact that they were keeping a zombie on a fucking leash in their house. Like, are you fucking so dumb? Are you the dumbest bitch in the world? You have landmines all around your entire place to keep zombies out. And you're going to keep this one behind an unlocked door with just one chain around its neck? Dumb, cocky bullshit. Oh,
Okay, but if we do have a zombie outbreak and I become a zombie, this is what I want y'all to do with me. I want you to keep me.
I'll
We'll
do that,
it
but I'll
Michonne
keep you
style, like
safer.
in Walking Dead. What Michonne does in Walking Dead is she has her pet zombies who if you're somehow behind and want to catch up and don't want to be spoiled, I won't say more about who they are. But their arms are like cut off and their like bottom jaw is cut off, so they can't scratch or bite. But they can chill. They can hang out.
So we'll just maim you, Sydney. We'll rip off all your limbs and your face. We'll cut your face in half, and then you can hang out with us anytime.
You just have to make sure that I still look really good.
You'll look great
We'll
without a
put
bottom
you in an
jaw.
evening
You
gown.
don't
We'll
need
put
a
you in one of these
chin.
evening gowns.
Thank you.
Red evening gown, no chin, slay. We'll make sure that it's a strapless dress, so it won't be affected by you having no arms. I think that solves all the problems.
Or a halter would really keep it secure.
A halter. Great idea. Great edit.
My titties will definitely need a halter.
Yeah. Okay.
They need the support.
Halter. Sexy halter dress. I can see it's gonna be Y2K inspired. It's gonna be really nice. It's gonna be really tasteful. It's gonna be tasteful. It's gonna be tasteful. But yeah, I loved the takedown. I loved all of it. I loved how Cillian Murphy was like, I am now Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, the sleuthiest sleuth that's ever sleuthed in the entire world. I'm incognito. I'm on the roof. I'm almost naked once again. It was great.
There were a lot of naked people when he was out and about, and the zombies were getting involved.
The booby.
And I was like, why
zombie.
are there so many infected naked people? And then I was like, well, maybe some people were in the shower or whatever, or their clothes got torn away in the wilderness. Yeah, I mean, and statistically, some of them have got to be naked. It just happens that there's a higher concentration of naked right here, maybe.
That's like the
and
classic,
a rage,
like
they hooked
horny.
Out. They got infected with rage virus, and then they tore their clothes off.
It's like those classic schlocky, like horny horror movies from like every decade, honestly, where like the girl's running through the forest and the tree branches are ripping off all of her clothes. Something like that happened. They cut the sexy zombie running through the forest scene. It's sitting on the cutting room floor somewhere.
All of these ladies are just like trash from Return of the Living Dead, where she just decided to do a sexy little dance, and unfortunately that was in the middle of the outbreak, so like bad timing. But like, what am I supposed to do? Not break into random little naked dance sometimes?
Chelsea, it happens more often than you think, honestly.
Clearly.
This happens all the time. But yeah, I mean, though everything leading up to the end of the army scene was horrific, watching everybody get fucked the fuck up was so cathartic. It was almost worth it to go through that pain, but not quite.
I liked when that one guy got stabbed with a bayonet. Did these guys have a bayonet on the end?
They had a bayonet, and then he fell on it, and it still shot
somebody
him.
Got stabbed, and then I was like, "Oh damn!"
It's good to have a bayonet around. I mean, it's a very it's a brutal and effective weapon.
But he was really smart in his escape too. The way he like laid down in the pit of dead people to disguise himself, and then like clambered over that wall real quick. And they were like, "Well, what are we gonna do? Also climb over the wall? I guess we gotta let him go."
No.
Like,
yeah.
The day that we are recording this, it's the 15th anniversary of Twilight coming out, and so I want to say he was being a spider monkey. I had to do it.
There you go. Cillian Murphy,
Yeah.
who Stephanie Meyer famously wanted to play James in the Twilight series.
Oh,
See?
it would have been great.
It all
But I
comes
love that
back
guy.
to Twilight and 9/11. Literally.
It really does. Literally.
Because 9/11, MCR, Twilight, you know. the
Exactly. It's all
dominoes you've seen.
connected.
It's all
The
connected.
takedown of Ellen. It's all connected.
It's all connected. But I also really liked Hannah's badass drug infused way of killing Christopher Eccleston. It was so slay that he was like secretly in the car, and then she's like, "Okay, bitch, I know where the zombie is." Bye, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why we had to see her driving earlier, remember? And we had to see them like recklessly driving over things to lay the groundwork for, oh, you just bravely barrel through now.
Do you want to know some Greek mythology things that have to do
Yes,
with this part
I
of the
saw
movie?
that, but I want you to say it.
I got very excited. So there is that big giant statue in the, I don't know, main plaza of the army house. That's what we're calling it. And it's a statue of a famous sculpture of Laocoon. How do you say that? Do you know, Chelsea? Laoco, O with an umlaut over it, N. So let's say Laocoon and his sons. And so basically the story of him is that he was this man, and the gods sent serpents to punish him for disobeying their will. And so basically this has a lot to do with what's his fucking name? What's the name? Christopher Eccleston's character. Basically, the Laocoon statue was also supposed to be there too, because part of his thing is he was famous for saying, "I fear the Greeks even bearing gifts." And so part of what his whole deal was is that he tried to warn, what is it, the Romans about
He
the
was a Trojan
horse.
priest. So yeah, it was a
Oh,
Trojan.
he tried to the
he tried
Trojans.
to
about.
he tried to warn the Trojan, no, whatever, the Trojan horse.
He warned
was
about the
trying to
Trojan horse.
He warned about the Trojan horse. Okay. He was like, don't accept Greek gifts or whatever. And so it was like a sort of like a symbolic warning for our fabulous trio that we love so much, that like, oh, this is supposed to be salvation here from these army guys. They say they have the answer to everything. And so maybe it is a time to look a gift horse in the mouth and be like, this is suspicious. They can't possibly have the answers. It's 12 dudes.
Yeah.
It's just 12 dudes in a house in army
Yeah.
fatigue. They don't even know when eggs are rotten.
Literally my nightmare.
That's
Yeah.
one of the troubles with apocalyptic movies, is both that you must band together to have a hope of survival, but also everybody's a stranger, and so you don't know who is trustworthy. And it's really easy to go, oh, the army, the government, those are the people who are supposed to be in charge and supposed to be the authority figures in some capacity, at
They
least.
should
Like,
definitely be there to help.
yeah.
Psych.
It is rough, you know, and it's tricky because like Selena and Mark took a chance on Jim and trusting him, and then Selena and Jim took a chance on Brendan Gleeson and his daughter, and Brendan Gleeson really took a chance on them, letting them into his home with his daughter and like accepting them into the unit. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, well, you need each other to survive, because you can't go it alone. They say in the beginning, don't go anywhere alone unless you absolutely have to. So
and they've set this foundation for us where it's like, oh, you need to trust your fellow human to survive. Look at all these good things that have happened. Selena saved Jim. They saved each other, the family. They created this cute family, and they're like, oh, great, another bit of hope, a bit of salvation, more family. And then it turns out to be the opposite. Yeah, that it's just the absolute opposite. They're trying to hurt, they're trying to kill, they're trying to.
They lured you here on purpose.
Men are pigs. Anyway, but then Christopher Eccleston dies. Isn't that great?
He
It's
dies.
so wonderful. He did shoot our boy though. And this is where I would like to discuss some alternate endings with you guys. Because what happened is this. they filmed up into this point where they crash into the gate and you see the little freeze frame of Jim and Selena like ah!
For a
And then
second, I
they
thought that was
ran
the end, and I was like,
they
"What?"
they ran out of money. And they also had like some varying ideas for how the movie would end. And like there's some quote where they're like, I think we're kind of thinking it would end there, but then it definitely couldn't end there. And so they came up with one ending and they shot the entire fucking thing. And then they tested it. People were like, fuck you. And I don't blame them because the ending that they tested was that Cillian Murphy died. They went to the hospital and he was in his hospital bed once again. And Hannah and Selena tried to save him and
Because
he
she's
dies.
a chemist. She's been trained as a chemist.
I know. They really put in a good effort there, but he fucking dies. And then they're like, what do we do? Hannah's like, what do we do now? And she's like, we keep moving and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's one ending. And it just ends there. The bleak enough to rival the mist.
Well, apparently, one of the reasons why they didn't do that ending is not just that it's bleak, but it's that they were like, see, it's happy. They continue on. Like, they left Cillian Murphy, he died, but they persevere and they're bravely going out into the world together. And it's hopeful. But then audiences were
They
like,
hated
oh,
it.
so obvious. Yeah, well, not just they hated it, but they were like, oh, so they're dead now, basically. Like, they just assumed that Hannah and Selena were also immediately doomed at that point and that it was not a hopeful ending. Like it just didn't
Okay,
read
well,
that way to the audience.
the audience was being anti-feminist, but also, I mean, we had just had like 30 minutes of them being terrorized and hunted for sex from scary men.
Yeah,
So
especially like they're in danger because they're women and now they're women out in the world together.
yeah,
So
and
like
one of them's a fucking child.
you
So
know,
yeah, it did read that way because I watched that part and I was like, oh,
I don't know how they put that together and they were like it's hopeful.
yeah, no, they're dumb. And then so in the real ending of the movie, what happens is they have a quick part in the hospital. It's like a little flash, and then he wakes up again, and Cillian
28
Murphy is
days
there.
later
28 days
again.
later, um, and like they have a little house, and they're trying to flag down a plane. And then they flag down a plane, and that's so sweet. Well, what they also did was they filmed this other scene, which like it's what we see. It's the exact same scenes as what we see in the actual ending, but Cillian Murphy like is dead. He's not there. And it was just Selena and Hannah doing that last part. And I think they just like added him in cut scenes to make it look like he's there because they did the testing and they're like, fuck, because I watched it and I was like, this is exactly, she makes that same smile. Like it's the
Yeah.
same fucking shot. They just added in some extra shots. Like literally, this is the funniest thing ever. When she's like talking at the sewing machine, she still talks to someone in this world where Selena, or where Cillian is dead, but she's talking to a chicken. She's literally talking to a chicken and she's like, you need to start having babies. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, who is she talking to? And it is a chicken. And then all the same things happen. But anyway, so luckily that wasn't the ending that they went with. But then there's another ending. What were you going to say? Sorry.
I do kind of wonder if they filmed the Cillian Murphy ending first and then that one to like be sort of loyal to their original vision
yeah. I'm
because
not
there was
sure.
something on IMDb trivia that said like her last line of like, do you think they heard us that time or whatever it was, whatever the last line was originally his line in the script. Like it was for Jim's character in the script. And then
Interesting,
she says it instead. So I wonder if that was like they came up with that scene and then they filmed it and then they were like, but our vision, like we have to, and then they were like,
Yeah.
well, I guess people don't like the vision. So
I think also another part of this was like the ending tested really fucking bad. And then the studio was like, okay, we'll give you more money because like that's a terrible ending. You gotta do something else. You gotta do something else. But did y'all hear about the other ending that they did not film? They were
I
gonna, it's
found
like
that
the other half of a movie.
Yeah, I found that video that's like 22 minutes long, and I watched those
Yeah.
first ones, and then I got to that point that was like, what if we didn't do the army stuff? And I was like, this is beyond my purview. I'll let Monica handle this.
Okay, well, I got you. It's so crazy and it doesn't totally make sense, but it is interesting. So basically, you get to the point where Brendan Gleeson will never know his name, his character name. No one knows.
I simply don't
For
know.
the
I'm
rest
so
of
sorry,
time,
Brendan Gleeson.
no one will
I'm so
know.
sorry, 28 days later.
We love Brendan Gleeson. He gets the blood in his eye, and Selena's like, "Kill him, Jim, kill him." But Hannah's like, "No, no, don't." And I watched this as like the storyboard cartoon, so that was very fun too. You should watch the video. But anyway, they end up like hog tying Brendan Gleeson. And it turns out that like the
Oh.
salvation thing is like different than what it actually was. So it's at like this facility. And it's a little, this is going to get a little bit confused because I got a little bit confused and it wasn't totally fleshed out. But basically, they are like, there's salvation here. They said they had the end of the virus. Like, let's try to save Brendan Gleeson. And so they like go in, they're looking everywhere. And it's this like weird facility. There's no one there except for one fucking guy. There's one guy who like won't talk to him. And I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's supposed to be Christopher Eccleston or somebody else. And basically, they're like, you said you had the answer. Like, you need to help us. Like, this daughter needs her father. And the guy's like, no. And then he's like, come on. And then he's like, okay, fine. And then they reveal that the way that you turn someone into a normal person again after being a zombie is to give them a total blood transfusion. So you take all of the blood out of them and put all new blood into them, which doesn't make any sense. And Alex Garland is like, I know. Danny Boyle is like, we know. It doesn't
We
make any
don't
sense.
care.
No, they said like that's why we didn't do it because it didn't actually make any sense when we're saying like one drop of blood turns you into the zombie. But like they were saying something like, what would they do? Like go in and scrub your capillaries to get it all out? Like it's literally impossible. Suspend your disbelief. And so they're doing this crazy blood infusion thing. And then the zombie horde comes while they're doing it. And Jim ends up like sacrificing his life so they can finish the blood infusion. And then Brendan Gleeson is fine and something happens. I don't know the end. Isn't that interesting?
So glad they didn't do that one.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that one too. But also, it would have been fun to have it like stay with the family, you know? But like the science isn't there, you know? The science just wasn't there yet in 2002 for them to riddle their way out of that. So I'm glad we got what we got. I'm glad it wasn't Bleak City, USA. I'm glad there was a middle ground where we had some hope and a plane.
They found a little cottage to live in.
That's gorgeous.
I do want to know why in the real ending that we see, they decided to write hello for their help word.
They did it just so he could have that dream where it said hell. That's the only reason. That's got to be the reason. Because before there's that part where he like is waking up and it like flashes and it says hell on the hill for like 5 seconds. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And they couldn't do that if it was going to be help. You know?
I guess.
I mean,
but still.
Then they had to make a whole other letter.
Like.
They're just trying to, well, maybe it's harkening back to the only like words of dialogue he has for the first 20 minutes of the film, which is just him being like, hello, 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 and like
they
different
said
venues.
We have to go back to our roots. We'll start with a 28 days later cutscene where Cillian Murphy wakes up. This time he's not naked, he's got a diaper on. And he says hello.
Yep.
It's the only reasonable. You know how you need bookends? It's like they bookended the movie.
It's bookends.
And they also bookended the movie by being like, hey, remember in the beginning of the movie in the laboratory scene, and there were those guys trying to free the chimps, and one of them kind of had an accent. He had a Finnish accent, and the guy on the plane at the end is Finnish. And I don't know if you guys could tell or not tell, because I was watching the movie on the link that Monica sent me. And
What are you talking about,
there
Chelsea?
are
That's
I was watching it
private.
in a totally legal way. And there were subtitles, and the subtitles were like, lads, bring the helicopter or something like that. And it sounded kind of like what he said, but he said it like over the radio, so it's blah, blah, blah. You know what
I
I mean?
wouldn't
Like
have
it was
been able.
muffled.
Are you asking if I
Um,
could tell if he was Finnish? Because the answer is no.
well, what I'm telling you is that apparently he was speaking Finnish in that scene. And
Oh.
the words are like, I don't fucking know how to say Finnish pronunciation. It's like Lähetätkö helikopterin, which sounds like the subtitles, which were like, lads, get a helicopter in. So I didn't realize watching the film that they were Finnish in that point. But apparently they were. So
Something I forgot to mention with the alternate ending, the very weird one that they didn't actually shoot. So it turned out that they were back in the same lab where it all started. It was the lab that started the rage virus.
there was
And that's
something
why they could figure out how to turn it off because they're the ones who started it in the first place. But
okay. IMDb trivia mentioned the complete blood transfusion potential ending and said like Jim gave all of his blood to Brendan Gleeson. But I was like, I didn't, they said it was the same castle or manor or whatever you call it in the English countryside. And I didn't understand when they said that they had repurposed it from the beginning, but that makes more sense if it was like not just they repurposed that location, or
it was
that they
the lab.
Yeah, but that it
After
was like
all.
a literal cyclical loop in that way.
Yeah.
Bookends.
It's crazy. Bookends. Well, I mean, we bookend our podcast every time with our all important Sydney
Segmentos.
There you go. I let you say it this time.
A little
I
treat
didn't
for
even groan.
me.
Merry Christmas. So we have to ask, how could this movie be gayer? And I'll tell you right now, those men could have just fucked each other. Those army men could have just fucked each other instead of having to entrap women. Just be gay. Get over
Just
yourself.
be gay.
Fucking
First of
God
all,
damn it.
It's literally fine. Be gay. And second of all, you're trying to tell me that men in the army haven't been doing this for centuries. They fuck each other. And I know that to be true.
They fuck each other all the time. Good for them.
We're going to throw it back to the Trojans and the Greeks, and we're not going to talk about the 300 and how they were all gay husbands and that was their war strategy. Come on.
That's the best part.
Yeah, I mean, literally just be gay together. It's no big deal. I think that is for sure one way things could be gayer. And I mean, do these men really want to repopulate the earth? I don't think that was their primary motivation. I
It's
think
been 20. It's probably been like at that point.
It hasn't even been one period cycle.
Yeah, it's been like 40
days. Like, chill.
If they're willing, I feel like at that point in the movie, it's only been 40 days. I mean, like, how long does it take to drive up to Manchester from London? Not that long, okay? It really doesn't take that long. So they're doing this whole thing. It couldn't have been more than a week and a half. So they haven't had sex for like a month and a half. And they're ready to like just enslave women. They're ready to enslave women for it. Really? Go in the closet
I'm not
and
surprised,
rub one out. Fucking
but
God damn it.
They made a joke at one point. I don't remember the exact joke, but they're talking about The Simpsons and something about how women don't go well with blah, blah, blah. And then someone says, that's what you think, Smithers. And I was like, is this a joke about how Smithers is gay? And if so, again, simply follow his example, be gay.
Follow his lead.
Yeah,
there's the only one who got it right.
The storyline, I guess.
There's a really big flaw in the plot. They didn't just fuck each other, but whatever, it's fine. It's 2002, I guess. They weren't ready for the gay orgy in the army house.
And yeah,
not fair. Who else is gay?
Selena could for sure be bisexual.
She has the haircut. She has the tattoo girl haircut.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it for her. I could also see her obviously she has shut herself off from the harsh realities of the world in many ways, but I could also imagine that even before then she is like one of those people who are like, ugh, I'm swearing off men, and that's also an additional obstacle for why it was hard for her to open her heart back up to Jim.
Yeah.
And I also
I
think
love her.
Mark, she wasn't vibing with him in that way, you know what I mean? So that was
She
part
didn't
of
have
her
it.
swearing off men.
That's
Yeah.
part of the reason she killed him immediately.
But once she's like, family love still exists and maybe I even want it, it's like, well, now, you know, not that I'm trying to repopulate the earth one period in, but if I wanted to, Jim's pretty cute.
It is.
Seems like a
Cillian
nice
Murphy, after
guy.
all. He's gorgeous.
But yeah, I think
Okay.
she could be gay for sure.
I feel
Hannah,
like
I mean,
after this experience, Hannah is gonna say yay go gay at this
Yay, go
point.
gay.
Good for her. I support her on her journey. Okay. Are we any other gay thoughts?
I mean, I have so many gay thoughts, but on this subject,
Okay,
I don't know.
on this subject.
I think
Matt,
Brendan Gleeson probably had a dalliance in college before he settled down.
I think it was just the Brendan Gleeson. You know, he just brings that to many of his roles.
He just brings that energy, like in Lake Placid. He just
Uh-huh.
it is within him, perhaps.
His ex Hector or whatever, or was he Hector?
Mhm.
I don't know. No, only time.
No,
will
Hector
tell.
was the other guy.
Hector was the other guy. Okay, good. Okay, Matthew Lillard. Where would he fit into this film? This is prime time Matthew Lillard, by the way. This is 2002. This is Shaggy era, baby.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
he would be a great Mark.
Yeah, I think Mark is
Wonderful
the right
Mark.
spot.
Yep, incredible Mark.
He's like a
not
little
one of those-
highlight. He's a big enough name that you're like, oh my god, he's gonna stick around to the rest of the movie. That way, it's a shock. You
Right.
know what I mean?
would've
When
been a tasteful
he's got to
choice.
go so early on. Yeah, and they really
He could do a British accent.
Well, also, IMDb trivia said that Ewan McGregor was originally supposed to play Jim. Not that he's American. Is he American? No, he's British, right? I don't. Well,
Yeah.
it's not my business to know. But then he and Danny
His name's
Boyle
Ewan.
None of my
had
business.
they had a falling out, and then Ryan Gosling was maybe going to be Jim. Because again, it was 2002, so you know
Right,
he wasn't
guys.
necessarily the Ryan Gosling mega superstar that we know and love
Oh
now.
no, he was fresh out of Club Disney or whatever the fuck.
Free
Not
Notebook.
quite. Not
Yeah,
quite.
but they wanted to have like mostly up and coming sort of unknown
Yeah.
actors other than Brendan Gleeson and Christopher Eccleston, which were kind of their like big gets. They wanted it to seem very like the average person. So I think if you're having
smart.
Matty Lily in, putting him in a role like Mark, where it sort of seems like he's going to be a big role, sort of Scream style with Drew Barrymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then being like, yoink, you thought, could be, I think, very strategic casting.
It's the only place for him because he's never would do. I couldn't picture him. It wouldn't have sat right. It would have been a fake film if he had been an army man. One of those army
He could
men.
have been that one nice army man.
That doesn't know how to fire a gun.
Does he? I couldn't tell most of them
He's
apart. I
Mark.
just was like,
He's
that
Mark.
one guy. Yeah. He
He's
could have
Mark.
been the dead, chained up army man. That would have been fun. The
But I
rage
want him to say-
infected.
Yeah,
to
the
have another
rage
Matty
zombie.
Lily monologue. His monologue about trampling his sister. Not necessarily trampling his sister, but he might have. He doesn't know.
He might have. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
He only saw his dad.
Okay, that brings us to Dumb Bitch. It's Christopher Eccleston.
He didn't have good control of his guys. They weren't well trained. They were out here letting prisoners escape. They were just, you know, they were not good at their jobs.
He was blonde.
And
He
he
did
was
have
blonde.
a hot earring, but how
And
dare
he
he
was
use
blonde.
it for evil?
Well, how dare he use
dare
his sex
he
earring
use
for
his-
evil?
Wrong. Dumb bitch. We'll leave it at that. Okay. It's time for the knives out of fives. This is our prestige film, so please tell me that it got prestige rating. I saw a 20-year retrospective from the Roger Ebert whatever website, so that's how you know.
You want prestige? This movie was nominated for a 2004 MTV Movie and TV Award. So,
Prestige.
yeah, Cillian Murphy got nominated for Breakthrough Male Performance,
Oh my god,
which
baby.
he deserved. But this movie also did well numbers wise in the sense that it has a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, pretty good. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, it is 87% fresh from critics and 85% fresh from audiences. So
That's not bad.
well received pretty much across the board.
Totally. Okay, I'll go first. I really, really love this movie, and I think that it really holds up even after fucking 21 years now. I am just want to say right now that I'm very fucking angry that it's been taken off of almost every single place that you can watch it, and I really don't understand why, because I found probably like 15 articles celebrating the 20-year anniversary of this movie. Like, it's beloved. It like was genre redefining for Y2K for zombies, and it pushed it in a cool new direction. And I'm just like, I really don't fucking get it. I'm really confused. Conspiracy brain wants me to think that there's some reason it was too realistic with the pandemic, blah blah blah. No, I'm kidding. I'm not like that. But I think that, like, especially now after having gone through the pandemic too, having it be that type of a zombie film always hits more for me. That's why I like Train to Busan so much, but I think this one does it even better than that, you know. So and I like the weird camera stuff. I like how like the flowers get like psychedelic and it blurs out and stuff. I think the music is beautiful. I think the cinematography was really cool. So I'm gonna give this one like a 4.8. I really love it. I'm really glad we did it. So thank you for indulging me.
I don't like zombie movies.
I know.
I do love Cillian Murphy though. And so I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I think I would like it more if I could have a place to stream it and not have like ads or like
Not be
difficulties,
fighting with it. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so I was getting really frustrated watching the movie. So
It's hard to have a good movie watching experience and
Totally
just
agree.
yeah.
I was trying to purchase. I was like, take my
Well,
money,
spend
and it said
money.
no.
It was so frustrating too, because it was literally like, here's the page for it on Apple TV. Here's the page for it on Amazon. You get to the page and it's like currently unavailable in your
Yeah,
area.
currently
I'm like,
unavailable.
fuck. Was only British people can watch it? I wonder.
What area is it available in? I need to know.
If they took it away from the movie's homeland, then it's extra fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask my British friends if they can stream it. Anyway, keep going, Sydney. I'm sorry.
Even though I was fighting with this movie just to like watch it, I really enjoyed it. I don't think, like, I know what they were trying to get at with like the style of how they shot it, but like when you watch it on like a high def TV, it just makes it look like even worse, to the point that that also kind of makes it frustrating to watch, but I still had a good time. Again, baby girl Cillian Murphy.
Baby girl.
Baby girl. I'm the man from the big V8.
Oh my god. Beautiful execution.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I never actually circled back earlier like I said I would, but I was a Walking Dead girly at one point, and there are a lot of similarities in the setup of this film and some of the payoffs, although, like, you know, Walking Dead went on for a million seasons, so eventually you're going to run into some of the same tropes. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
And I said when I was watching this movie, so Walking Dead coded, and Monica was like, no, The Walking Dead is this movie coded, which is true that this came first, even before the comic books, which were first released like a year later. The comic book writer said, Kirkman, I think is his name. I was looking at it earlier. But yeah, Robert Kirkman, the creator, said he never saw 28 Days Later until actually like a month before the first Walking Dead comic book came out. So it is kind of just a coincidence. And in looking at the IMDb trivia for this movie, there were a lot of really similar tropes from other zombie movies in the past. There's like one in particular that I had never heard of, but the Day of the Triffids apparently is also like the main protagonist escaping the disaster in a hospital, deserted Britain, blah blah blah. And so like I think, you know, at some point a lot of this is just like apocalyptic movies, disaster movies. You're pulling from a lot of the same
totally
genre touch points, and the waking up in the hospital is like a beautiful way to not have to start at the beginning of the outbreak, but be able to start with someone who's just discovering it. You know, I think there are maybe some other creative ways that we could go about that in the future. Like, what if somebody was camping or whatever? Don't you remember in the beginning of the pandemic when it was like, my friend is camping and they're backpacking right now and they're gonna come back
They
and
have no
society's gonna be on
idea.
lockdown. Yeah, like they don't even know. And so I think there are fun ways to do that. So just to say this, the strength of the beginning of this movie was not as effective for me as it might have been if I had never seen The Walking Dead before, where it is kind of the exact same opening, at least to a degree. But it is still very compelling. Monica said there's some really good camera work. There's one shot in particular I really liked where Cillian is running in the woods and then he like trips and falls. And the blocking for that must have just been like so impeccably done because he is so fucking bang close to the camera when he falls down onto the ground. Like I don't know how he didn't bonk his head on the camera with how close he was.
He's a prestige actor.
He's a prestige actor, and they just nailed it. They fucking nailed it. But so there are some really good, cool shots with that. Like Sydney said, there were also some shots where it was really distracting, the camera work or the quality of the filming. Just the way that it read on camera in this day and age was maybe a little different than how it was intended at the time. But overall, I liked it. I liked that a lot of the times when I was like, why? Oh, it's so convenient that the army guys are only showing up now. It was like, well, that was on purpose. So I think they did one of those things I like where when I have a thought and then they are like responding to that thought 5 seconds later in the movie. It makes me feel good as a movie watcher, and it makes me feel like the movie is thinking about the realities of its choices. And so I just thought it was well put together in that regard. I like that it had a hopeful ending. I liked that they were like a little silly with it being like 28 days later again. I liked that he had a diaper. I thought it was a good movie. I'd be curious to watch the sequel for sure. I don't know that
You are in your sequels era.
I am in my sequels era. I don't know that I like would go out of my way to watch this movie again, which is probably a good thing because it's impossible to do so. But I would give it like a solid 4 knives out of 5s for sure.
Nice. Okay, well, that closes the book on 28 days later, but we've got something exciting coming up. Chelsea, tell them.
You know how we love to come up with fun ideas. You know how we love a theme month. You know how we love to occasionally base a theme month or a theme week off a funny little name. And so when I knew that we had December coming up and we kind of had some ideas about what we wanted to do with December, but we'd have some B movies on our agenda, it occurred to me that we could do B-Sember, where I don't know if you could hear the difference there. But it's B movie December, baby, and we're only doing
December
B horror movies for B-Sember. So we're pretty excited about it.
And what are we kicking it off with, Sid?
Guess what? We're going back to an OG, an original creature feature. Maybe the creature feature because
Yeah,
that is
maybe
the
the creature
It might
creature
be.
from the Black Lagoon.
1954,
haven't-
baby.
Never seen this movie. I've never seen this movie.
Me
And I've
either,
so
but
many
the
times wanted to
imagery's so
buy
iconic.
something. Yeah, I've so many times wanted to buy something with that creature's face on it. And I'm like, Monica, you can't until you see the
Fake
movie.
fan.
So I'm going to buy so much shit after this episode. I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited to kick December off with one of the original classic B horror movies. So
Yes. And there's so much fun stuff coming up this month, things that I've wanted my whole life of the podcast. So I'm excited for December. It's the holiday season. We got to do it big. But now it's time for a poll question for 28 days later. Questions. How many days would it take you to wake up?
I hope that I would never wake up. I hope that I would wake up like after, you know?
Yeah.
you would wait for the finished plane to land, and then you would do,
I'd be like, Sleeping
oh
Beauty.
my gosh, did something happen while I was out?
I've only been asleep for
56
75
days.
days. I feel like you die of starvation way before that, but anything's possible.
They put the biggest IV bag possible on you, and it's just been dripping away this whole time.
Did you hear me
Exactly.
burp into the microphone right now? 'Cause I just
No.
fully belched
No.
into it. I tried to stop it. If you heard it, then that's a little Easter egg for you. Is that her question? I can't think of anything better. How many days would you
Oh, another good one
What
would be
candy maybe
pet-
would you survive on in the apocalypse?
that's a
Oh,
good
I was
one.
gonna say, can you change a tire under pressure?
That will be the write-in question.
How
Can you
fast
change
could
a
you
tire
change
under
a tire
pressure?
under pressure?
Describe. Would you pick up the car yourself like Brendan Gleeson? Yes or no? Okay, cool. We'll do that, and then we'll do like what candy would you binge on when
The
all you
options
can
are
eat is
Maltesers,
candy?
Whoppers, or Ovaltinis. And it's all the same candy. We have to pick your country allegiance.
The
Weigh
correct
in,
answer
weigh
is
in.
Twizzlers.
And this
Oh,
bitch is trying to
milk
fight me about
duds.
Twizzlers. She's been trying to fight me about Twizzlers.
Actually, 100 grand. I have
Yeah,
100
100
grand.
grand.
kind of slay.
None of us knew
They're
that until
really
this
good.
Halloween season, but it turns
They're
out
good.
that
They got a
candy is
good
that
crunch
bitch.
and a good chew. Anyway, why not give us a 5-star review? What do you think? You should do it. I think that it would be really nice. We've done so many prestige movies this month, and Malignant. So why not say great job, great lineup, 10 out of 10. And December sounds great, 5 stars. There you go, written right there for you right now. And why not follow us on social media? We're at spooky_Tuesday on almost everything, especially YouTube, where we're doing video episodes now. And we're also at Spooky Tuesday Pod on Tumblr and Facebook. So I have to say, thank you for listening. See you next Tuesday.
Bye, spookies.
I was thinking I was wrong.
But what?
All the death. All the shit. It doesn't really mean anything to Frank and Hannah because... well, she's got a dad and he's got his daughter, so...
Cheeky monkey.
I was wrong when I said that staying alive is as good as it gets.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.